So, good evening and welcome everybody to another Tuesday night edition of Super League Raw Weekly. Of course, we're going right the way through the winter, and as you can see, full panel this evening on the opposite side of the grand final. Good evening, as always, Reggie, sir.
Good evening, sir. Are you well?
Very indeed. Mr. Sale, always a pleasure, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Scholes, always nice for you to make an appearance, my friend.
Good evening.
Indeed, all the way from Wales, international, no less. Everybody's starting to get into the chat. Good evening to you all. Let's give a few shout-outs. Christopher Waterworth Rivers, good evening to you. Chris, Mark Smith, also John Wilkinson, fresh from the grand final with the Super League Raw community, as was Rebecca Fry. She's with us as well. Ian Rispin also with us on the day. Linda Blusman, she's there. Evening to you. Nicola Burnwood with us early doors. Evening to you. And Adi West with many more coming in as we speak. Right, okay. Well, where are we going to start? Only one place to start, really. Unfortunately, Derek is ill. He sent his apologies about half an hour ago. So we're now having two Super League Raw Weeklies this week. Derek will be now joining us tomorrow. He does send his apologies. So we're going to carry on with the show. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Have a sample of Super League Raw if it's your first time to join us. And tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we will hopefully be going live with Derek for a special, as it says there, IMG, Super League Future, and what next for the Leopards will be key topics, Steph. You know Derek well. He'll be really disappointed to have let us down tonight.
Yeah, he dropped me a message earlier on. Obviously, these things happen. We hope he gets well soon, and we look forward to having another show tomorrow. So even more of Brucey bonus for the Super League Raw members. 2 live shows in 1 week.
Let it never be said that we don't come through in a crisis, Mr. Sale, is what I would say on that one. But yeah, hopefully we get Derek tomorrow. But like I say, lots to get through tonight. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have a great time in each other's company, as always, talking all things rugby league. So let's kick off straight away. An announcement, if you missed it, there was an announcement earlier on tonight. This was it.
Just want to give you a quick update. First and foremost, just want to thank you for the season we've had. The grand final's over now. It's been a great year, totally enjoyed it, and hoping to see you all next year as well. So with that in mind, just want to re-emphasise and reiterate the fact that I'm not going anywhere. I'm certainly committed to being at Salford first and foremost as a coach in 2025. I absolutely love it here. I'm committed to this place, and I want to be here for 2025 and beyond, and that's what I will be doing. I won't be going anywhere. I want to be part of the growth of the club. There's a lot happening on and off the field, and I want to be a part of that. So as the club grows and the business grows, at some point at the end of next year, I'll look towards stepping upstairs into some form of football director role, so onto the staff, if you like. And that'll be a long-term appointment. So connect all the facets of the business, facilitate the football department, and maintain some fingerprints on the football department as well. So I've put a lot of people in place that have got long-term futures now at the club, good people, and there's got to be succession. And I've always said I want to appoint my successor, and that's what I've always done at every club I've been at. So this is no different, and I'm looking forward first and foremost to next year, and you guys jumping on board and carrying on that journey with me and the team, and then obviously beyond that, like I said before, connecting all the facets of an ever-growing group in what is a really exciting future going forward.
So there you go, gents. Paul Rowley coming out today saying that he will be stepping upstairs in 2026, but it's business as usual for 2025. Greg, Ryan Briley, 32. Is his son taking over in 12 months' time?
Well, it sounds like he's got an idea of who it's going to be anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a bolt out of the blue. I did when I first saw that, I thought he was saying he was stepping down, not stepping up. So it's good news. Good news. You know, as he said, he's appointed a successor at every club he's been at. So I think it's good news. Salford takes a lot of pressure off him as well, and allows him to deal with more of the kind of the football side of things, as he says, the business side of things. You can't doubt he's not got an eye for a decent player at a decent price that'll fit into his team. So, I think it's probably a good move for all concerned, to be honest.
Absolutely. Let's say hello to our friend Leon. Let's give Leon a little wave. Leon, my Lee Leopards fan. Hello, Leon, mate. Good to see you back for your second week in a row. You stay tuned, sir. You stay tuned. Also, Mark Hill, good evening to him. Carl Shaw in the chat. Craig Forth with us as well. Kristen Inu, Steph, he's the assistant at Salford at the moment. You'd think if he's going to be promoting a successor, that would be the logical candidate as we sit here now.
He'd definitely be right up there. I know he's got a lot of time for Kristen, so yeah, it would be logical. And obviously, he did the similar thing with Lee, like he alluded to there with Neil Dukes. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. But I think more to the point, I think what a great news for Salford fans. I think Paul's worked wonders there. I know they were desperate to keep hold of him when the likes of Leeds and Hull SC, etc., were sniffing around him. So that's a real positive step for them for next year. But also going forward as well, Paul's rugby knowledge, his connection in the game and stuff as a director of rugby. I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job in the next level up, as you will. So yeah, overall great news for Salford fans.
And, as a club that many people thought were going to be competing with you this year at Huddersfield, Joel, that, of course, wasn't the case. But this is great news for Salford, just in terms of another 12 months under Paul's stewardship. Let's be fair, what he's done at that club over the last few years has been incredible. Of course, these signings are his coming in. So it will allow whoever, if it is to be Inu, to help as we get to the back end of next year to decide who comes in for 2026 under whoever the new coach's stewardship is. So in terms of a seamless transition, seems a good idea, this.
It's really exciting. I think for anybody who's involved with the club at Salford, they should be really happy about this. If a coach saying he's stepping aside, that would tend to worry you a little bit. But for him to be stepping up and to be actively engaging in whoever's going to be taking over is going to be great, because for him to state the fact that he wants to be part of this long-term part of the club shows that he's not just going to let anybody take that role on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So, we wish Paul well. That's great news. Another great coach sticking around for another season. We said many times during the course of this season, we're blessed with how many great coaches we've got. Paul staying in situ, he would be right up there as well. Very, very steady hands indeed. Good luck to them for 2025. Right, very, very briefly, Paul McShane would appear to be going to Mark Applegarth's York City Knights. This has been announced tonight as well. Many expecting McShane to retire and go to Australia. He's postponed that at least for one season. Mark Applegarth will certainly benefit from his experience at York City for one season, Greg.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think we spoke about this last week, didn't we? The future of Paul McShane. Oh, yeah. I think it's a nice little move for both parties. He'll bring some of the other players on. If he can stay injury free, I think it's a good move for both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt the York players, Joel, will benefit from having a man of his stature and experience.
Oh, he's done it all. He's been part of some incredible matches, very big pressure cooker moments. So for the likes of York to want to possibly push to get promoted one day, hopefully under the gradings, you kind of need not just one people like Paul McShane in your group. And the fact is, he's not going for just a retirement gig either. He's still got plenty of life left in him. And I think even if he was to stay at Cass, no one would have argued against that. So it just shows what kind of acquisition they've got there.
Absolutely. Brilliant. And Steph, former man of steel, of course, Paul McShane, whoever's playing number 9 at York next year has got a master to learn from, mate.
Well, I think you've nailed it there, Dave. Exactly. You've got someone with his experience, and especially for a club like York, who have got aspirations to make it up the IMG rankings and potentially get into Super League one day. One thing he will bring is a culture and an ethos of how to run a Super League club, and that culture within the playing group as well will be able to, wealth of experience that Paul's got, and like Joel said, can still play in Super League. So they're getting a good player, but even better person, as Craig Lingard alluded to earlier on last week's show.
Absolutely. And sticking in the Championship, of course, the coming weekend, Wakefield against Toulouse. A lot riding on that gentleman for Wakey. Of course, everybody expects Wakey to be up at the IMG next season. If Toulouse was to turn them over, the egg on the face, Greg, would be, let's put it this way, Yoki.
Be very, very yellow, sir. Yeah, and you know, when it happened last year with London, everybody expecting Featherstone to come up, and it happened with London. So, yeah, Wakefield can't take that for granted. You know, I'd like to see Wakefield come back up, I must admit, simply because they've been the best team in that division for a long, long time.
I think
one of the best teams in that division, at least, and you know, they're kind of improving the ground as well to try and keep into the IMG listings. So yeah,
I mean, I think Wakey's pretty much done, isn't it, Joel? We would expect Wakey to be up next season. I mean, that's dusted.
You'd imagine so, especially looking at the gradings with the work they've had done. I think I mentioned it on a few weeks ago on Weekly that I drove past the stadium and it looked incredible. It looked very impressive, even from the outside. It looks like it's pretty much odds on. It's a bit controversial as well because a lot of people would say that they'd like to see both teams in Super League. Of course, under the current structure, that's impossible. But hopefully, if they do look at increasing the amount of teams in the Super League, there might be a possibility of that. But it shows how much of a grudge match this is, and it actually means a heck of a lot for not just those in Championship, but also those in Super League.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, we said Wakey have already lost to Toulouse. Yeah. That this season, yeah?
Yeah, I think Toulouse did beat them.
For a moment, he'd gone. I thought it was Marty McFly for a minute. I thought he was helping us to get a bet on for the weekend. But carry on, Steph.
No, I think, well, if you look at the semi-final, Wakefield were very lucky to beat York in that one. It was actually a really, really close game. I think it'd be really interesting if Toulouse do beat them, just in terms of, obviously, Toulouse have got some pretty decent IMG points. So whether that would frighten an established Super League club, who knows? I think it puts the cat amongst the pigeons. I think it's a tall ask to get two teams in, but until these gradings are released, until they're confirmed and stamped, who knows who's on what points?
Or James Bond amongst the tiger, who can forget Octopussy. Anyway, let's move on to a bit of culture, Greg. Let's get on to the wheelchair final. Leeds Rhinos, of course, winning the wheelchair final. And I have to say, I tuned in for it. Most enjoyable entertainment. We spoke last week about the demise of wheelchair rugby league, not necessarily the product of this, that, the other, but they had a great opportunity to really get behind it after the last World Cup. They didn't really take that opportunity for me, the Rugby Football League. I tuned in for the final. It is a very, very entertaining bit of sport, isn't it, gentlemen?
Oh, yeah. I didn't see the final because my youngest was playing, so I missed the final. But yeah, it's a great spectacle, and it's quite brutal as well.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
I love a bit of wheelchair rugby. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I agree. Steph, did you manage to check that one out?
I didn't know. I didn't get to watch this one, but I have watched a bit of wheelchair rugby previously, and I think it's a fantastic product. It's a similar game, but obviously completely different at the same time. And some of the collisions are massive, and some of the tries when they're diving out of the wheelchair, basically, it's some phenomenal efforts there. So I think it is a product in its own right, and I think if I'm right, I think it's the first time Leeds have actually won it, despite having quite a few great players and some that have represented in the England team, and I think they're coached by the former England player, the ex-Army lad, aren't they, at Leeds?
Wasn't he Leeds and England captain at one point?
Yes, yeah, I think he was. Yeah, so great to see them winning it. And if you can tune in and watch it, then again, it's all down to people tuning in and watching that gets more exposure. It's a fantastic game.
Well, Mark Hill, of course, Leeds Rhinos fans, he was happy to get a little bit of silverware in the cabinet at Headingley. And Tom Mackey, I think it is, watched the World Cup final last year. He thought it was absolutely brutal. It absolutely was. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. For those joining us late, yes, we have announced already, for those who are a little bit late, Derek has took ill today. Actually left work, believe it or not. But he will hopefully be joining us for a special tomorrow night, 8 p.m, usual time. Derek will be with us tomorrow. But stick around, keep watching Super League Raw Weekly tonight. You never know, you just might enjoy it. Right, okay, let's get into a bit of Super League Raw news. We always do this throughout the show. First of all, 2 new members, Brett Johnson and Jensen Hewitt, giving them a shout out this evening. Welcome to the community. Really appreciate your support. As mentioned last week, yes, over the winter months, Mastermind is on its way. You members out there, do you want to be a part of Mastermind? An email will be coming out to you tomorrow for you to register. The way it's going to work is that a draw will take place. You will pair off against another person. It's all a bit of fun. You'll have 3 questions each on your own team in the first round. There will be a tiebreaker if it is a draw at that point. And of course, the winner will progress. We will get a Super League Raw Mastermind champion between now and the start of the new season. Also coming, and members will get exclusive rights to this from the get-go. Series 2 of In Conversation, and we've got some big hitters on the way, as you can see there. That is going to be being recorded throughout the winter months. Members, as always, will get a very large runway in terms of their ability to watch that first. It is only right and it's only appropriate. So if you're thinking, oh, well, I'll join next year, there's so much good stuff coming down the pipe this winter. You don't want to miss a part of it. Do that QR code there at the top of the screen. Become a member at Super League Raw, because next season there'll be even more coming the way of members behind the curtain. That's right. We will be giving more behind the curtain than we have this year, so you don't want to miss anything. You want to be a part of that. Right. Greg, you might not know this, but get ready for Greg to sweat profusely. We have got our annual general meeting next this Sunday. Of course, no Final Whistle podcast this Sunday. So we're inviting all the members to come on a Zoom call with the Super League Raw team to discuss the year. What have you enjoyed about our production? What would you like to see going forward? Because, of course, like I said last week, we are your servants. And already we've had a suggestion that people want 5 minutes from Greg next season. 5 minutes from Greg talking about Women's Rugby League. That's right, Greg, every week will get his own part of the show. Ask Reggie. Oh, it's on its way. Oh, yes, that's going to be great.
But apparently, I got accused of talking too much anyway at the weekend.
Well, you have now been given free reign, sir. Free reign. John Wilson welcoming, of course, the new members. Thank you for that, John. Really appreciate it. Yes, outstanding stuff. So, yeah, that's an idea that's come from the members, and we will be embracing it next year. Every week, Greg will be giving us 5 minutes of analysis in the women's game, uninterrupted. He can go for it, absolutely go for it. With everything that's going on in the women's game. That will be marvellous. And speaking of the women's game, you might not have heard this, ladies and gentlemen, but the War of the Roses is back on the 19th of October. Kick off at 2 o'clock at Boundary Park, and it's free entry. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Free entry at Boundary Park this coming Saturday. I think it is the 19th, isn't it? Is that right? Is it Saturday? I think it probably is. Saturday the 19th, 2 o'clock, free entry. I mean, for me, this is a big moment for the women's game. You can see at the bottom there, the Lancashire team going through, some massive names in there. You know, the likes of Georgia Wilson of Wigan Warriors is in there. You know, Jodie Cunningham, St. Helens, some of these, and we'll get to the Yorkshire side at the moment. But it really is a who's who of women's rugby league that's going to be taking the field for this War of the Roses. And Greg, because of course you are the women's guru from this day forward, this is big. You know, to have the best, you know, English talent on the field and to allow people in free of charge. This, for me, is a real moment for the women's game and for those who follow the women's game, because there's no excuse. No rugby league this weekend. If you're missing your rugby league, it's a lovely segue to the international Wigan tomorrow. Of course, they're doing the curtain raiser against Wales, of course, as part of that, a double header. How big for the women's game is this War of the Roses? Because I think the whole of rugby league, and especially the women's rugby league, they really need a good attendance, don't they?
They do. I think it's massive, and I think, you know, free entry. Come on, what else are you doing on a Saturday afternoon? You know, the food will still be in Aldi on Sunday. You know, get down there, get women's game, because you know.
Oh, Greg in his moment of absolute joy is suddenly lost his feed. I mean, you just wouldn't believe it, would you? Reggie having real problems there. But whilst he's trying to fix that, Steph, your tickety boo. It is a big one, this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big backer of bringing it back for the men's game as well, the War of the Roses. But no, to give, is it being televised? Do we know, or is it just
not that I'm aware, mate? Not that I'm aware. I'm not
see.
aware that it's going to be televised. So, like I say,
It could possibly be on YouTube.
could be on the Sportsman. Yeah, the Sportsman.
I'd hope they would, because this is the best talent in the Super League, isn't it? In the Women's Super League. So, we can show domestic games now for the women's rugby. Why can't we show a mouth-watering fixture like this? Look at the entertainment that was provided by the Lee and Featherstone game at St Helens, and then following that the women's grand final. If we're serious about promoting the women's game, let's do it, especially with the names that are on show here. Some of the biggest names in Super League, Women's Super League.
Absolutely. There's no excuse not to get behind that. Free entry at Boundary Park this coming Saturday, 2 p.m. John Wilkinson already in the chat saying he will be there. Well done, John. I have to admit, I will be checking my diary this Saturday, because for that one, I might just go and enjoy a bit of rugby league myself, because that should be an absolute belter. So plenty of good stuff there to look forward to. We will be looking forward to the England-Samoa Game 1 this time next week. We will have that for you this time next week, a full preview of the England game. And of course, as always, we will talk about any upcoming, any news that takes place between now and then. So I believe we're all going right the way through the winter. Already a couple of people have done the QR code. Oh, could we be getting a member live on the show? It happens most weeks. It'd be outstanding if they do. Right, okay. Whilst we're waiting for Reggie to get back, I don't know what's happened with Reggie. He's just fallen off the face of the earth. I mean, he's in shock, bless him, that he's got his own segment in the show. But for those of people who were on YouTube, Facebook, you name it, over the course of Friday, you will know that we launched a photo competition for the grand final. And my Lord, we got quite a lot of photos. So there you go. And as Greg Roach says there, quite rightly in the chat, Reggie is back. As Greg Roach says, quite rightly in the chat, lovely to see the pickies that were took there with the players. It is what makes our game so brilliant. It was a fantastic atmosphere, some wonderful, wonderful photos there. But there has to be a winner. There has to be a winner. Very, very difficult. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I could have just put my hand in a, dinner draw or something like that. So I've been sentimental. I'm going to be sentimental. So thank you to everybody who did the hashtag Super League Raw and sent in your final tickets. But a massive congratulations must go to Ian Hallowell. Ian Hallowell. The reason I picked this particular photo is because of the generations that are in it. Look at the kids having the time of their lives at the grand final. That's what it's all about. The grand final is about families. It's about people coming together and enjoying the great game of rugby league. Ian Hallowell there with his family. Outstanding stuff. Well done, Ian. Thank you to everybody who took part on that. More competitions like that coming next year for the Challenge Cup and for the Magic Weekend. And Ian, congratulations, sir. You have just won a free annual Team Talk membership here at Super League Raw. Many, many congratulations to you. You will join the community. All you need to do is send us your email address. You will be welcomed with open arms into our community. You'll sample it for this year, and who knows, you might renew at the end of the season. I'm sure you will. You'll enjoy that much. So congratulations to Ian. Hopefully you're watching, and like I say, send Super League Raw an email or a message, and we will get that all set up for you. Boys, wonderful photos. That's what makes our game so good.
Absolutely. Very heartwarming was that, seeing all them. I think it was very difficult for you to pick one. It was so nice. Just a bit gutted there wasn't any ones with my face on it.
No,
with the
not
mask.
on this occasion. Not on this occasion. But you never know. You never know. But you're right. I mean, that is. I mean, and you know, from a Super League Raw perspective, Greg, what was lovely about that? I mean, I'm guessing here, but I'm going to say, you know, it might not sound a lot, but it's a lot from where we're sitting. At least over 100, maybe 150 people submitted a photo with the hashtag Super League Raw. I mean, that's just
fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
and great to see everybody smiling, and you know, different fans mixing with each other. It's great to see, and you know, going back to being cut off in my prime. I know I've been accused of talking too much, but to cut my internet connection, that's gone a bit far, people. Come on, I'm entitled to an opinion.
Happy days. Steph, you concur with everything we're saying. It's just wonderful that so many people are engaging with us this year.
Oh, absolutely, and I think just watching that, it made me smile. It makes your heart, doesn't it? You know, just to see the game we've got and the community that we're building here as well. Just to see so many happy people and to be lucky enough to be there. What an occasion it was, and I'm glad everyone had a good time regardless of the results.
And Craig says their memories made on the day, both on and off the field. And you know, when you see photos like that, and when you look back at it reminds you of all of your grand finals and all your Challenge Cups, and you know, maybe people that we've lost along the way. That you know, we remember certain grand finals or Challenge Cups where we had our photos took, and what it means to share these times together. Life's a short thing; it's not a dress rehearsal, and days like this, we really should cherish them with friends and family and with the wider community. So well done, everybody, for getting involved in that. Ian Halliwell, many, many congratulations to you. Outstanding, sir. Well done. Outstanding. Right, let's get into it then. The final, of course, we talked a little bit about this with the Team Talk members. Brilliant this week. If you haven't listened to the Final Whistle podcast yet, make sure you do on your way to work tomorrow. It's available on Apple, Amazon and Spotify. Just go Super League Raw. You'll find it, the Final Whistle podcast, the grand final, where our Team Talk members joined us on Sunday to discuss the grand final in great detail. It was a wonderful discussion, so much so that ourselves as the Super League Raw presenters had very little to do because the fans took over, and that is the whole point of the Final Whistle podcast. You know, we want to hear your voices, what you had to say. So brilliant debate. Make sure you go and you download that and you listen to that on your way to work tomorrow. But let's talk about the grand final. Joel, we'll start with you. I think this grand final is, at the moment, in some quarters of the press, in terms of the fans, it's been hard done to. I thought it was a great contest.
It was a great spectacle. A lot of people were saying, why wasn't there more try scored? Why was there not any more points on the board? But come on, let's look at what past grand finals have been. Very low scoring games, high intensity, lots and lots of defence and lots of attack that doesn't get through. And, you know, that's the edge on your seat stuff that you look forward to. That's the kind of rugby that we look forward to seeing. We want to see two teams really going at it. If we'd have seen a 40, 50, 60-0, what grand final is it? So for me, it was a great game to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, you know, credit to Hull KR. They really put up a good fight. So I've got to give it to them. They really played well.
Well, Mark Smith in the chat is saying that he enjoyed the Final Whistle podcast. Make sure you do all right. Andy Bibby, the grand final was just okay. Wouldn't want to watch it back twice. Believe me, we did. And I'll tell you now, it's even better the second time around. If you like your rugby league and you really do appreciate the art of quality defence, because that's what it was. It was two teams leaving the bodies on the line, doing everything they possibly could to keep out the others. And without that piece of genius, it's a 4-2 game. Yeah, well, it's a 5-2 game, isn't it? That's how close it is. So, sometimes we don't celebrate. And Greg, this is, I think, is the difference between British Rugby League and Australian Rugby League. When Sam Burgess came back to Warrington, he said, defence wins games. Defence does win games. And that's what we saw, two teams that really prioritised the day. And both did really well. It was just one moment of genius that unlocked it, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, I think the phrase is one for the purists. It was just a great game. Sometimes a good defensive game can be as good as a 32-30 game because of the skills in defence on show. I thought it was a great game. And somebody's mentioned the weather.
Second half. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that hailstone, I was talking to one of my students. They covered a rugby union game at the weekend on the same day. And they took the players off for 20 minutes when it started hailing.
You wouldn't believe it, would you?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying, and I'll tell you what I don't know about you, mate. I was a little bit in that Stretford end. I was looking at the roof. I mean, we know it leaks. I mean, for a minute, I thought that hailstone might have had it tipping all over us, mate. You know what I mean?
I know, but in those conditions, and to be very few handling mistakes, and to be very few missed tackles, I think you've got to take your hats off to the players.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, Rebecca, who of course won this time last week, Rebecca won her ticket courtesy of Super League Raw. It was the first time of her going, and she absolutely loved the atmosphere. It was a pleasure to have you, Rebecca. We're really pleased that you enjoyed it. Mark Hill, another member, he said it was great to watch. A great final with no pens for 22 minutes, and that's a really good point, Steph. Kendall, to be fair, good game.
Yeah, it's very, very timely because that was the point I was going to make. I thought it was a great final, and I think if that was an Australian NRL grand final, we'd all be waxing lyrical now, saying how good it was and stuff like that. I think you've got to pay credit to both teams defensively, even more so I think OKR, because obviously we were on the end of what Wigan can do the week before in that semi-final from an attacking point of view. So for OKR to defend as well as they did and only be unlocked by a moment of sheer brilliance by Bevin French was outstanding. I completely agree. Chris Kendall had, I think, probably the refereeing performance of the season for me. I thought he did on the biggest stage. He refereed it exactly how it should be, and everyone's very quick to criticise referees. We should also be as quick to applaud them when they referee a game so well as Chris did at the weekend. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought as a neutral it was a fantastic game of rugby. It was edgy seat stuff. There was moments where it could have gone either way. There was last-minute tackles that caused knock-ons over the line. There was controversial moments within Sember. There was tip tackles that potentially could have gone. And that comes back to the referees not overreacting as well, which, again, I thought they did. Given the season we've had with controversial decisions, I think it was very, very well met.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting point that Steph just made there, Greg. We said about one of the guys in the chat, and of course that's their prerogative. Won't watch it back again. But when you did watch it back again in the stadium, you thought that Mikey Lewis was a very lucky boy, but actually he did his absolute best to protect the play, didn't
he? He did. And I'm hoping that a lot of people have said that the semi-finals and the final have been refereed differently to the rest of the season. So what I'm hoping is that the final and the semi-finals are the blueprint for going forward next season, and that the referees, as everybody says, and I'm as guilty as a lot of people for slagging referees off at times, but there's no game without referees. So let's hopefully that's a blueprint going forward. We've had our controversy this season. And I hope going forward that common sense approach that we've seen goes into next season. Because, how many times have we walked away from a game this season talking about decisions rather than the actual game itself? And it's not good for the image of the game, I don't think. So, yeah, I thought, apart from nearly taking Marshall out when he was doing his warm-up before the game, kicking his legs back to the corner flag, and he nearly broke Marshall's shin.
Can we just some props for Chris Kendall?
Meeting anybody, he almost kicked him. It was purely accidental. He didn't know it was behind him. But yeah, as Steph said, it was great referee and great game.
I don't know if everyone noticed, but did you notice how quick Chris Kendall actually is? He kept up with Bevin French at one point.
Do you see Ben French looking at him as if say, really? You're going to have a race with me? Really?
Could be very naughty. Could be very naughty. Kendall had a 10 on himself to score the first try.
Well, let me tell you now, ladies and gentlemen, this is hot off the press. You might be wondering why I'm a bit all over the place. 24/7 is Super League Raw. Right this very minute, okay? It's been very difficult to get an in conversation with a Super League referee. But tomorrow, Team Talk members, get your questions to me tonight or in the morning, because tomorrow I will be recording in conversation with Aaron Moore. Aaron Moore will be the first referee to be interviewed by Super League Raw. That will be tomorrow. That will be for your viewing pleasure in the coming days' time. And I, for one, will be very interested to hear from Aaron Moore in terms of what his career as a referee, but also interpretation of the game, the difficulty of the job, etc. I'm sure you will too. So get your questions in now, not on the chat. Do it through the membership, do it through the email, do it through the Patreon website. What would you like me to ask Aaron Moore? That, of course, is exclusive for Team Talk members. They get the opportunity of asking that question. Make sure you send me those tonight. That's great news, chaps. Aaron Moore, first interviewee for Super League Raw as a referee.
The best ref in Super League this season for me.
Yeah, easily.
That's why we went after Aaron Moore, because we have given him great plaudits, haven't we, this year?
Yeah, no, it'd be really interesting to see what he's got to say, and to get the perspective from the official is it's a big coup for Super League Raw. Actually, they don't give many Super League they don't give many interviews referees, do they?
Well, I've asked a lot of they will remain nameless, but I've had no joy at all in the refereeing community, which is a great shame, because actually, they need to be human. They need to come out. They need to talk. Anybody knows that the way we interview, nothing too controversial is going to be in there. Just interested to see it from there.
Yeah. So I think you make a great point there, Dave. I think if referees were more approachable and came out and like you say, appeared more human, I think we should respect them anyway. But I think we'd kind of get off the backs a little bit if they were seen to be a bit human at times.
Well, I, for one, looking forward to that tomorrow and learning what his heritage number is. That is going to be very good fun as well. Dawn Baker, well, that's an interesting one. I had to look at that twice. She says she's watched it 3 times live at Old Trafford, and then I realised she said twice since. So she's watched it live at Old Trafford and twice since. I thought it was going to be 3 times at the game. I don't know how that happened. But anyway.
Can I borrow your TARDIS, Dawn, please?
Absolutely. Steve Cartledge, best games he's seen this year in the tight matches, and he's right. Edge of the seat. We were there, the Super League Raw community, ladies and gentlemen, just at the risk of showing you it again. There we all are on the bridge. Last year it was just me, Greg, Steph, and our good mate Mike. This year, 17 of us. Next year, we might even have to hire some sort of room to have a pre-game meet and greet or something like that. That'd be outstanding, because we're growing all of the time. It was absolutely wonderful, wasn't it, to be in the company? And like one of those were Craig Forth. Craig was our Wigan supporter, and I think it was about 65 minutes in. I think it might have just been, it might have been just after the Mikey Lewis goal. I looked behind me, and Craig was absolutely bricking it. I mean, and that goes back to what Steve said there, in the fact that it was edge of the seat. Wigan fans, be honest with yourselves, you were not comfortable at all, probably until about 72, 73 minutes. Would that be a fair reflection, Steph?
Yeah, I'd say so. And that's, again, credit to OKR. And it's easy to overlook OKR because they didn't score a try. But like I said earlier, to keep the game to be so close, and obviously they took the decision to take the 2 points. I said to you, Dave, at the time, I don't think they should have done that. I think that was their opportunity to go for it, and it's easy to say with hindsight, but I did actually say that before they went for it. That's what I would have done, and it probably turned out to be true. I think when you're that close to Wigan's line and you're getting a back-to-back, I think that was probably their best opportunity to get a try. But up until 5 minutes to go, it could have gone either way, which is what you want in a grand final.
Freddie McGilvey there said it was a perfect game plan, executed well. Well, a good evening to you, Freddie. Hope you're well. Fantastic. A lot of people saying the reason because we're not talking about the referee, it shows just what a good game he had, and he's absolutely right. You know, we do what referees do, but I think a lot of the time they are judged on how well they've done by how little we talk about them. And I have to say, Chris Kendall's superb. This is a good point from Andy Bibby. Good evening to Andy. That Hull KR only scored one try in 160 minutes. You compare that to Wigan, who've hardly conceded, well, haven't conceded any. You know, it's quite. We always talk about peaking at the right time. KR all year long. I mean, their attacking phases have been nothing but superb, but they just, again, defence is on top. Wigan defended superbly well. KR, I won't say didn't get a sniff because, you know, the Mikey Lewis try that rightly was chalked off. You know, you've got to talk about that. It was Mikey Lewis. For those who listen to the Final Whistle podcast, again, watching it back in the second half, they're coming down the left-hand side. I think it's a 3-on-2. All Lewis has got to do is straighten up, and it's through hands and it's in on the left-hand side hall. So there's a couple of things in there that could have done it. And don't worry, you Wigan Warriors fans. In a moment, we're going to shift all emphasis to the Wigan Warriors, because what I'm very mindful of, and rightly so, on the Final Whistle podcast, we did talk balanced about the game. We gave KR the due respect, and rightly so, as grand final winners. We have not lost sight of the fact that Wigan Warriors are the quadruple winners. We will get to Wigan in a moment, and we will give them the credit that they deserve for the champion team that they are. But like I say, Greg, there was moments in that game that on a different day, KR might have broke the line, and at that point, it could have been a very interesting game. And completely different, who knows?
Yeah, I think they scored 2 tries in 160 minutes. One good try and one dodgy one. But yeah, KR, like we were saying, the first 20 minutes, they were pushing the Wigan defence back and they were making further inroads. But Wigan did what Wigan do in those situations. They just know how to win. And I think I don't know, it's Dawn said in the chat, once KR were chasing the game, the errors started to creep in. And it's always bad when you're playing against a team. It's like one of those dreams where you're trying to run and you're running in tree, but you're not getting anywhere. It feels like that trying to get into a game. The opposition's just stopping you for getting involved in. So Hull KR did really, really well to keep Wigan down, because we know Wigan are capable of scoring tries from almost anywhere on the pitch. And I agree with the thing about the tight games. You know, with 10, 15 minutes to go, KR could have snatched that game. They were still in it. And nobody wants a 20, 30, 40-0 grand final, because that's no good. We want the best two teams to produce essentially the best game of the season. Whether it was or not, I don't know. I probably think my bias said on the Saints Warrington game.
That was game of the season. I think nobody can argue that the Warrington Saints elimination game was.
Yeah, that was a great showcase game.
It was. And you know, if you were going to go back this season and, you know, take the decision to rewatch games between now and the start of the new season, that'd be right up there on everybody's list. It was just a brutal game of rugby league. Loads of great stuff in the chat. They're not questions, but we have got time for it tonight. We have got time for questions. Just save them for a little bit later, because there's plenty that's already in the chat that I do actually want to talk about. Robert Hickson here said he didn't like the slowing down of the play the ball. Robert, I've actually sent you a message as well today, mate. I hope you picked that one up. I'm sure you'll be interested in that one. So yeah, there's a few things that I want to pick up from the chat. The first one, and it was the first real issue of the game, was the Petter Hiku challenge and on Junior in December. Now, obviously, we know how this has gone tonight, but let's have a look at this challenge, because there's a few things here that we can discuss.
On the angle will put Wigan within 12 metres, and an air of expectancy raises amongst their supporters as they switch it left, and Sember topples. Down at his heels went Bachelor. Tumbles him over, and I think Sember's hurt here as well. Yeah,
he's out for the count here.
This was certainly going off for 15 minutes of tests here.
Yeah, it's his head impact on the floor.
So, I'm going to start off with you on this one, Joel. When you hear a professional grand final winner like Kyle Amor in the commentary box, his first instinct was great tackle from Bachelor. Do we need to say anything more? It was an outstanding tackle from Bachelor.
It was incredible. It was one of the best tackles I've seen all season. I don't see why that would come into question at all.
No.
It's just unfortunate that Nsemba's head hit the ground the way it did, but that was nothing from what Batchelor did.
No.
That was just, unfortunately, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and Nsemba's a very big man. But it was a great tackle.
The problem was Nsemba was off balance. Both feet were in the air, and he absolutely nails him on his thigh, and as a consequence, that creates the tip. That's why he said, hit his back of the head, hit it. However, Greg, we then get, and rightly so tonight, again, we'd have been going ballistic tonight had the match review panel not had common sense. Petter Hiku, to be even pulled up for that is him showing genuine concern. At no point did he try to shirt and pick him up. He just moved his arm, and it was actually, if you look at it, Jai Fielder thinks that to play the ball, he's oblivious. He's ready to play it. He doesn't seem as concerned for Nsemba as Hiku does. And of course, Hiku just looks, and it's Hiku who actually waves on the physio. Now, if we're going to start giving players bans for that, it's really time to go home, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think Marshall held the situation running like he did, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, that was just clearly, I think he was looking to see if he'd swallowed his tongue.
Yeah.
I think
could have happened. Yeah, that's
genuine concern. I think it was genuine concern, and you could see the look of surprise when Marshall runs in. Hiku's like, I was checking he was okay. You can almost see him say it to him.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, in a season where all I've been asking for is common sense, we finally have some common sense.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to mention this, but I think Burgess is a very lucky boy.
Well, I'm coming to Steph on that, because that's the next part of this. For those who haven't seen this, we're going to show that clip again. Just watch Joe Burgess.
On the angle will put Wigan within 12 metres, and an air of expectancy raises amongst their supporters as they switch it left, and Nsemba topples. Down at his heels went Batchelor, tumbles him over, and I think Nsemba's hurt here as well. Yeah,
he's out for the count here.
This was certainly going off for 15 minutes of tests here.
Yeah, it's his head impact on the floor.
So there you go, Greg Roach in the chat there saying how much he enjoyed our company on Saturday, as much as we enjoyed yours, my good sir. But Steph, I think Joe Burgess is a very lucky lad, because actually, if you look at that, not only does he strike Nsemba, he strikes him on his temple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good luck for Burgess, is it? And like we said, when you slow things down, it looks a bit thingy. But even with slowing it down, there's no reason for him to do that. There's no explanation for it whatsoever. With the Hiku one, was for him to even be cited, I thought was ridiculous. It's completely different from a player showing genuine concern for somebody picking somebody up who they think is pretending to be injured. It's completely different, and rightly so. They've got rid of that, which is great. But yeah, Burgess is very, very lucky now for someone who is injured to then be hit on the head by somebody when there's no need to do that in a normal, regardless of whether someone's injured or not. I think he's very lucky to get away with that one.
Yeah, and somebody's put in the chat, sorry Dave, that the replay kept cutting short before Burgess runs in. I think if that runs on, I think Burgess is in trouble, because it looks like he goes down with a hand like that as well. Not a punch, but a closed fist onto the side of his head. So, I think he's extremely to have got away with it on the night, and to B to have not been cited and be up before the panel. I really, really do. And that's not because of what happened in that semi-final. Absolutely nothing at all to do with that. It was just very, very, I don't know, not a good look for Burgess.
He had no right to be there.
He runs in.
The tackle was over. I mean, that is a bad look. And the thing is, here, we've had trial. And look, we're not trying to get Joe Burgess into trouble here, but the facts are the facts. Petter Hiku has gone to a tribunal today for nothing. For trying to look after a fellow professional. And it was clear as day that Burgess has gone in when he needn't have gone in there, and he struck Junior Nsemba to his temple. That's what he's done. That's the reality of the situation. When we see some of the nonsense cards that we've got this year and some of the nonsense match review, and I'm happy it was 13 on 13, because that way the game has sorted itself out. This is an afterthought now. I just think that Joe Burgess, who's had a brilliant season. I mean, let's again, this isn't a bias against Joe. Joe's had a phenomenal season. He really has. He's lit up Super League at times. Some of his tries. I mean, length of the field is the lot. I mean, I think one of them was against you, Lee.
For an outcast as well. Don't forget, he was
out, wasn't he?
Got rid of at Salford.
Yeah.
So to do what he's done this season has been phenomenal. But that doesn't excuse that. I mean, I'm sure as the other players as well would look at that and think it's a bit grubby to go in like that. And like I said earlier, there's no reason in a normal tackle to put your hands on someone's head. In a normal tackle, let alone when someone's down injured. But I mean, he's probably not known he's injured in that split second, but it's still not a good look.
No, and I'm delighted that Ensemble passed his HIA. I don't think any of us doubt he passed his HIA. I don't think any of us call into question HIA decisions anymore. I think there's far too much riding on that. He passed his HIA. He's got a great noggin, the lad. It's a very, very deep one. Good lad. That stands him in good stead for the future. Does our junior. I mean, they might end up banging his head instead of banging a drum in the dressing room after games. Who knows? That's good. But great to see him get up and play the game. I think he deserved that after the season that he had. Joel, have you got anything further to say on that, or should we move on?
Yeah, just a little thing to add on to that. It shows not just how good of a person Peter Hiku is, also his professionalism. For those that have played the game, know that you are taught that if you think a player is injured, you stand over him to make sure that nobody else goes into the tackle. And that's exactly what he did, because he actually thought he might have been potentially hurt. So for him to stand over, or as you're told sometimes, to huddle over them, and so that's the way for the referee to know that there's something up. And that's obviously the difference there when Joe goes in, hits him, and just runs off like a bit of a cheap shot. But there we go. It was just a nod to Peter Hiku.
And that's the thing that winds professional rugby players up. It's a tough sport. If there's one thing they don't like, it is cheap shots. We don't. It's a tough enough sport as it is. That's the thing that really, really winds up professionals. And let me tell you now, I wouldn't want to be Joe Burgess first game against KR. I think some of those Wigan lads might just look at that and go, "Okay, son, you're going to get them up and on that one. We'll have to wait and we'll have to see."
Can I just make a comment on this, Dave? If I live long enough, what's the difference between an opposing player picking up or touching an injured player and a player on the same team? Because I've seen several times through this season and previous seasons, a player injured on the floor and their own player gone to move them or to pick them up, and nothing has happened. So what's the difference between that and an opposing player doing that?
Well, there is none. To the left. I mean, when you think about it, just from take a step back, does it matter who touches the player? Of course, it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you're right. But like I say, French was. If you look at the clip, French is almost oblivious for quite a while. Hiku's the one that shows concern. It's crystal clear. And what we don't want is professional. I mean, rugby league players know when going back to the one that you love, Greg, Varney knew Matausi was feigning injury. He knew. If he didn't, he just knew. Hiku knew that Ensemble was hurt. There's a massive difference. Massive difference. Now, for me, it needs tidying up a little bit. Well done to Peter Hiku. We don't want professional rugby league players not looking after each other on the field of play. That's certainly something that...
Just on that, Dave, though, I think it's an important point, because what Reggie's saying there is what's the difference between your own thing. The difference is that if it's your own player, you're not doing anything to deliberately hurt them. You are genuinely going to help them. I'd forget about Paul Vaughan. I'll go to one in Catalan about 10 years ago. A Catalan player was injured, and Jamie Acton, playing for Lee, injured a player and then picked him up as though he was feigning it and caused more injury to that Catalan player. And that's me as a Lee fan saying it. As an opposition player, unless you're doing it genuinely like Hiku did to try and stop him swallowing their tongue or something like that, then that's the difference between it. And the way that Vaughan was looked at was that he was picking up a player who was potentially genuinely injured. So that's the difference.
Spot on. And Eddie West there, you can't touch an injured player. I would argue with you, yes, you can. If you look at the way Hiku lifted that arm, it was with the utmost care. At no point, you just go and look at the clip. It was a genuine concern.
He just moves his arm away from his face
just to gauge
it. Breathing, or he'd swallowed his tongue.
Spot on, mate. Spot on. Tom Mackay there. He didn't think Thompson deserved this, mate. Don't worry about it. It's a nonsense. Thompson will play first game because the pre-season friendly counts as that. So I won't lose any sleep. I don't understand why they even give them bands out. Just take the fines.
Really not rated for England.
Well, yeah, he probably missed the England game, but, you know, hey-ho, there's plenty of quality in the prop forwards that can go in there.
Lees.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Dream team matter. Absolutely, yeah. Well, very good counsel, Mr. Nixon. Very good counsel indeed. Right, come on. We've got to relive it. This was the grand final. This is what won it.
Cross to French, and French with a dummy, and away he goes, leaving Sturridge. He doesn't need anybody. He is brilliant. He is astonishing. Bevin French could be the star of the night. Already makes his mark with individual brilliance.
Yeah, you've absolutely nailed it there, Dave. Individual brilliance personified.
Personified. Absolutely lit up the grand final. 100%. Magic, pace, composure, balance. Everything that you like to see on a rugby league field. And he's not just done it once. He's done it about 4 or 5 times this season. Last week, we gave him his own video on the show. Rightly so. So just for our Wigan brethren out there who still have a massive bee in the bonnet where Man of Steel is concerned, I think if we are all honest, and I think we said this on Final Whistle, if Man of Steel was being given out now, after the season's finished, perhaps Bevin French gets the Man of Steel based on his performances over the course of the whole season. Now, what you've got to bear in mind here is that the Man of Steel points are not given for the World Club Championship. They're not given for the Challenge Cup. So straight away, those are out. You know, so even though he got the Lance Todd, and even though he I think he might have got man of the match in the World Club as well, they don't count. They don't count. Now, of course, these awards are after the 27 rounds of the normal Super League season. So by the letter of the law, our trophy included, I'm comfortable that Mikey Lewis got those accolades. However, what French has produced in the latter end of the season, and when you look back on the whole season, if you were to include the Challenge Cup, which you can't, and the World Club Challenge, would we all agree that Bevin French has been outstanding and potentially has been the best player of the season?
Yeah. I think there's a big difference between the Man of Steel and the best player in the comp by an absolute mile.
I agree.
The thing is we all, it's a bit like with the promotion and relegation talk and the IMG. We all know the rules beforehand. We all know the scoring system that Man of Steel's based on over the course of the season. And then, unfortunately, if you do get injured for a period of time, then that's going to impact your chance of getting Man of Steel massively. Like you say, Dave, it's not the who's the best player in the comp award. It's the Man of Steel over the 27 rounds. I say all the time, there's only one superstar in rugby league, in British rugby league, absolute genuine superstar, and that's Bevin French. And I hope that appeases the Wigan fans a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. When you finish messing about, mate, are you going to?
Sorry, I'm trying to charge my phone because I'm using my phone's Wi-Fi because I think one of the workmen at the top of the road has gone through the cables. Yeah. What Steph said.
We're talking about Bevin French. Would you have him as your player of the season if it was being awarded now?
I think you'd have to give him serious consideration. You know, he unfortunately missed a lot of games early doors. So yeah, I think he'd have to be up there. I think he'd be certainly under consideration.
Michael Bell, take a bow, sir. That is comedy gold from Mikey Lewis wears Bevin French pajamas. Everyone needs a hero. That is comedy gold, Michael. Oh, loving that one in the chat. Joel, you disagreed when I said, would everybody put Bevin French as the player of the season? We were all, if it was being awarded now, we'd be right in contention. Maybe he was. You had a massive shake of the head. Why was that, mate?
2 reasons. Because for me, regardless of what Man of Steel is made for, people tend to be giving it who has been thought of as being the best player that season in 27 rounds. Now, we always are going to have injuries, but where's the cut-off point of where you've not played enough games of the 27 for you to be considered? So, is he the best player in the comp? Absolutely, by a long shot. But he's not been the best player all season because he's not played all season. For me, that cut-off point has been about 3 or 4 games. And the fact that he was out for 5 tells me otherwise. But that then takes me to my point that I made on the podcast, which please go back and watch or listen to because it was fantastic, is the point of bringing an MVP player in for the playoff seasons. So do you want me to just quickly overview what I said?
Yeah, for those who've not listened to the final whistle, I thought it was a great shout. Carry on.
Yeah, so basically the idea would be for those who are the runners-up, the top three in the Man of Steel points, you would then have an aggregate score, and that would then carry on into the playoffs as a separate round, but the points would continue, and then it would change from being Man of Steel to then the MVP, so the most valuable player of the playoffs. And then whoever scored the most in that, points-wise, then gets the MVP award. And I think the reason why that is good is because it then negates the thing of those who have been injured throughout the whole season, because the season is a different competition completely to the playoffs. So it's like having a Champions League, if we want to call it that.
I have to say, Joel, you've had some blinding moments this season. Some of them have been comedy gold. This, mate, was perhaps one of your best ideas you've ever had in the time I've known you. The only difference I would make is I think the Man of Steel stops. Everything is wiped off. Potentially there's 3 games. You'd expect the MVP is going to be in the final. You'd expect that. So for me, you wipe it clear and it's MVP time. I think but I think it's a great show. Great show. Let's draw. I mean, this is the thing, for those of you who are watching tonight, who join us again tomorrow when Derek's on as well, and maybe listening to this for the first time, we had a whole show planned for Derek, and within an hour of the show going on air, the whole thing had to change. Look what we're dishing you up. Hey, this was not the way tonight was supposed to be. We know our rugby league. We'll entertain you on a Tuesday night. Don't you worry about that. Right, let's stay on Bevin French. We'll look at his game. Let's bring this up. Actually, let's look at his game. Now, of course, he got the inaugural Rob Burrow Trophy. Personally, not for me. We'll come back to that in a moment. Not for me, but this was his game. 1 try, 31 tackles, a tackle efficiency of 88.5% on the night, 15 tackleables, quite incredible, 2 clean breaks, 15 carries, 138 metres, an average carry of 9 metres per carry. There's no doubt about it. Bevin French on the night was simply sensational, and those were his stats. Absolutely brilliant. But this is going to be an interesting one, Greg. I don't know if let's go to Nathan Cleary. I'll start with you, Greg. Nathan Cleary before the game called Bevin French a freak. This is Nathan Cleary. If that's what Nathan Cleary thinks, you can imagine Australia could start to think. Now, the Wigan fans amongst us, here we go again. But look, it's fact. If a player of the quality of Nathan Cleary is saying that Bevin French is a freak, we all think he's a superstar. Even though Bevin is on a long-term contract, money talks, that, I think, was quite an interesting comment by Nathan.
I think it was, yeah. I think it was. And as you say, I think he might well go back to Australia and start talking about Bevin French back over there. He didn't break into the comp over there. Wigan picked him up, and he's just shone. His skill set phenomenal. And yeah, I think there might be some serious concerns in the back of some Wigan fans' mind that the NRL may come calling if he continues to play at such a consistently high standard next season.
Dawn's mentioned about NRL 360. Yeah, they're all, and NRL tonight have been waxing lyrical about Bevin French in that final. Here's another one for you, Steph. End of the game, Matty Peet's word, and I will quote him verbatim, we just need to enjoy him while we have him. Now, what did that mean? Does that mean till the end of his contract? Is that until Bevin decides to go home? I mean, again, that was, for me, an interesting comment to hear from Matt Peet. We need to enjoy him for as long as we have him.
Well, he's spot on. I mean, you look at the NRL, there's some amazing, amazing talent in the halfback positions, but there's also some quite average ones in the NRL. There's a few NRL teams who are crying out for a Bevin French. And you think
South Sydney's one of them. They don't know it yet, but South Sydney are one of them.
Well, yeah, I think they'll find out very soon. No, you never know. You never know. Good luck, Dudley. You never know.
Was that Ken, Dad?
Well,
Yeah.
I hope he takes his feather duster because he's going to need to tickle him to get through the line. Carry on, move on.
Hey, right, it's a strange thing. You might go and light it up. We don't know. We don't
Oh,
know.
look at Morgan Smith.
I hope he does. I hope he does. Actually, I hope he does go and light it up.
I do too.
There are some decent NRL halfbacks, but not on Bevin French's level. So you can see why, with the money that's in the NRL game, why some club may be prepared to pay big bucks. And I think they would have to pay big bucks to get him off Wigan as well, because if he's under contract, unless Bevin says I 100% want to go and proper puts his foot down, then it's going to take a lot of money to get him to go over. But for someone of his talent at this moment in time, at his age, in the prime of his career, there's not many better halfbacks knocking about.
Knocker Norton there. Wigan have done well to keep him for as long as they have, and we have done well as a competition as well to keep him as long as they have. And here's an interesting one from Dawn Kirkby. She said it on good authority that Ryan Pappenhausen is going to be given a $3 million contract. I think in British money, don't quote me on this, I think that's probably in the region of about 1.6, 1.7 million pounds.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not being funny. No rugby player that's playing in this hemisphere can turn down a deal like that.
No.
It's nearly £2 million, that.
Is that nearly 2 million?
Yeah.
I went far off. I'm not that well travelled, Steph. Carry on.
I think that's the salary cap for most Super League teams, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
That's a phenomenal amount of money.
Unbelievable. Right.
The only thing for me on that one is, and we always say that, okay, if you're offered enough money, are you going to go 9 times out of 10, probably more? You're going to say yeah. But really, he's actually been a part of the squad that beat Penrith, who was the best side in the NRL. So he's actually playing for a better side than what is currently any of the sides in the NRL because of the world champions, right? Now, I can see your faces, but listen to this one. Why would you go to a team that's lost the team that you played for, other than just the money? Because to me, that doesn't seem right. What Bevin might be doing.
But Joel, if I may, this isn't like Jack Grealish going to. Was that a good example? I'm trying to think of a good example. Who was the lad? Who was the lad that played for Sunderland? Greg Phillips. This isn't like Phillips leaving Sunderland to go to Man City and sit on a bench when he's a multi-millionaire. I mean, I've never understood that in football. I can play football every week, or I can sit on City's bench, and I'm a multi-millionaire. Now,
yeah, but rugby players aren't like that, though.
But mate. All right, are you telling me somebody all of a sudden in your area of work said to you tomorrow, Joel, seeing what you're doing there, mate, really like it. I'm going to double your salary. In fact, no, I'm going to not only double it, I'll add a bit of change on top of that as well. I want you to come and work for me. Or I want you to be a part of and I'll give you a 10-year contract, a 6-year, like Nsemba's got, a 7-year contract on £2 million. Or, well, I'm not going to say what your salary is because, of course, it's 2 million, a shade of that. I know. but the point is, if somebody came to you and said to you, I'm going to double or more than double your salary, mate, you're waving to out to your current employer and you're on your bike.
Yes, but that isn't my passion. All these guys have been brought up playing rugby has been their passion, so they want to play. Every coach, even Craig Lingard, said that they all want to play rugby. So I don't agree with that personally.
I'll give you an example, Joel. This is probably a better example. You might be able to relate to it a bit better. John Asiata does not want to leave Lee. So why is he going to Hull FC? Because they've offered him £230,000 a year.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, apart from the money.
Yeah. But that's why Bevin French would go, because if he was to go back to the NRL, that sets him up for life then. I mean, sure, he's probably already set up for life, but that would seriously set him up for life. And that's the only reason Johnny Asiata's gone to Hull FC is for his family, because he knows financially that's going to see him till...
Yeah, well, that was part of my question. But putting money aside, they are the world champions and he's playing for the world champions.
Yeah, but mate, if he was offered the same money to stay at Wigan, he stays at Wigan. We're not comparing apples with apples.
That's my point.
And yeah, we're not comparing apples. He's more than happy where he is. If he was offered the same contract at Wigan as an NRL club would offer him, he'd stay where he is. He doesn't need the NRL. I think he's quite happy at Wigan. But money makes the world go round. If somebody came and offered him double the salary, I think that would be enough to prize him away from Wigan. And let's be fair, Pappenhausen's worth $3 million. How much
What's
is
Bevin French worth? Yeah.
I mean, on the topic of Bevin French, let's, because we've got the time tonight. In the history of Super League, where did he rank in terms of the top imports that we've seen? I mean, you're a massive fan of Jamie Lyons, aren't you, Steph? There's a name straight away that we throw into the mix right from the get-go. We have been blessed with some quality. Tom Amone's another one. Recent. Tom Amone, you'd say as an import. Wow, what a player Tom Amone's been. And there's been plenty of the Dean Bells of this world. There's been plenty over the years that have come from the Southern Hemisphere and played rugby league in our great nation. Where would we put Bevin French?
He's right up there. He's right up there with Jamie Lyon for me.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, a genuine superstar. To get someone like that in the prime as well is phenomenal. So, and a bit like what we were just discussing there, Jamie Lyon left St Helens, who at the time were the champions, winning everything, and went back to play for Manly, who were another fantastic side at that moment. So I think he's definitely in that conversation in terms of the best imports we've ever had.
Yeah. I've got to go to Sean Jordan. Jordan's correcting me, saying that Phillips played for Leeds, not Sunderland. Sean, I don't care. It's a round ball. I really don't care. The point was he went and sat on a bench. That's what the point was. But thanks for joining us here on Super League Raw. You carry on, sir.
Going back to that point, I don't think any import will ever touch the heights that Roy Azatazi reached at Warrington. But
Teasel. Craig Teasel. Anyway, Craig, if you're watching, all the best.
all the best, Royston. I think, Steph's right. I think he is. I think he rivals Jamie Lyon as the most electrifying player. Maybe a different type of game is being played to when Jamie Lyon was playing 10 years ago. Maybe a bit longer, Jamie Lyon now. But yeah, he's certainly up there. They're the two names that for me. I mean, if Jay Field wasn't so injury prone, he's got the potential to be there as well. And it's just unfortunate for Jay Field that his hamstrings aren't how they should be because they keep going on him, which is an awful shame because I think he'll be up there as well.
It's not for the rest of the Super League, mate. Imagine both of them on top draw. That's
scary, isn't it?
It is scary to think of. Anyway,
just to add to that, though, sorry, Dave, because I know I'm probably talking too much again. But when you think Jamie Lyon was an out-and-out centre, but Bevin French has played wing, fullback, standoff, scrum half.
Been water carrier as well this year.
Yeah, I think he's even played centre as well. I'm sure the Wigan fans will correct me, but I think it was a game he played at centre.
You'd think someone that good could nail down a position, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you just? Well, actually, you think that the position was that specialist that not every player, a player like Bevin could play them all. I mean, I think we're just basically saying.
Game in his prop. Alan Clegg in the chat mentions Mal Meninga. Yeah, but he wasn't Super League era, but he was a brilliant signing for Saints when he came over in 85, was it? 84, 85? An absolutely massive coup for Saints, but he wasn't Super League, Alan. I mean, I'm sure if he came over now, he'd still do a job.
I mean, look, we're not saying Bevin French in terms of the world stage, albeit I'll tell you what, we know his nationality goes for him in this conversation. We know that British players and people who play in Super League don't get the credit that they deserve. But I think Bevin French is now getting into. I mean, Mal Meninga, yeah, absolutely, great player. We're talking about the Super League era, and of course he ranks highly in the greatest of all time. But we've got to remember, Bevin's got probably 4, 5, 6 years at top level rugby league still in him. I think what we're seeing here is somebody very special. I don't know about you guys, but I always go back to probably the golden generation at Leeds. And as much as I didn't like the fact that Leeds were winning everything, because who would? There's just something about that team, the way they handled themselves, the players that they had. Privilege to watch And Wigan are that, at the moment. You know, you go there with hope every game. Can they be turned over? Any team can be turned over, but the quality of the players they've got, I mean, the magic that you're seeing, it's not just French. I mean, we've seen magic from pretty much. I mean, Harry Smith's dink over the top against Catalan, Liam Marshall's trampoline try against Lee. You know, we're talking. You could go right away. Some of the tries they've scored this season. I mean, all I would say is, if you were going to actually put a price on it, the Wigan season ticket would be quadrupled for next year, let alone the trophy cabinet, because that's the standard that they've reached. It's not just French. They've just got bags of quality. We're not even mentioning Nsembe yet.
Well, it shows just how good he is, because you know we're potentially putting him ahead of people like Leslie Vinacolo, Robbie Paul.
He's ahead of Paul. Vinacolo will give you. He's ahead of Paul.
No, but Paul was a great player.
Yeah, he was.
He's not French. I put French with him now.
But that's the point. You know, these are great players that have been up there. It's a shame like Sonny Bill Williams was a bit of a flop, because, you know, had he played to anywhere near compared to what he had been playing, he would have been up there in conversation. But that was just a marketing stunt, I think, unfortunately. But that just shows just how good he was.
For those who marketing stunts with Greg Inglis, mate. Dear God.
Well, there you go. But that's the point. You know, he's way above them in the Super League era, especially when you look at like Leslie Vinacolo. For those that have had the privilege to watch him live,
class.
You know, unbelievable. And Bevin, I would honestly put ahead of him and think he is by far the best that Super League's ever had.
And for Sonny Bill, who's watching us this evening, it was Joel who said you were a flop, and he resides in the great city of Huddersfield. Anyway, Thompson must have been up there for man of the match. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. This was Thompson on the day. For a preparation for a show. Hey, and those people who've done that QR code, come on, we need your support for next season. Become a part of it. Help us to produce even better stuff for next year. We really do need your support. But Thompson was outstanding. 48 tackles in D from the big man. 10 marker tackles. That should be 95%, not 955. 95% efficiency. 95% tackle efficiency. Quite sensational. This is a surprise, though, not a bust. That surprised me, that, when I put this together. No tackle bust in the game. 2 offloads, 17 carries for 145 metres and 9 metre average in the game. What a performance Luke Thompson has.
Yeah, I think he went through the first half without being rested as well.
Mate, he's done that all season, mate.
Yeah,
all
he was
season.
in a pressure cooker of a grand final. He certainly helped the Wigan pack to get on top. Once kind of Hull KO had thrown everything at them, he was one of the reasons why the whole pack, the Wigan pack managed to get on top towards the end of that first half. Definitely, it was phenomenal.
Yeah. He was.
You know, you look at we've talked about Bevin being the best overseason signing. You know, look at what we've brought from home. The likes of your Luke Thompsons, the Burgess boys. You know, we're talking some top quality. You know, Herbie Farnworth, all these players, Dom Young, gone over to the NRL, absolutely world beaters, and they're playing for England. And you know, you kind of think to yourself, man, if they'd have just stayed in Super League, but, you know, would they have reached the heights that they had they not gone to the NRL? But it just shows, doesn't it, that what good we've got coming from this country and how much really should be put into the grassroots, because that's where it's come from, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you know, Thompson for me, probably one of the signings of the season. He's been so good for Wigan in that front row.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a bit thinking when I always knew he was going to be good. Obviously, going from he was Saints, weren't he, before he went to the NRL, and then going to Wigan and making that transition, but to get in the dream team, and I thought he had a fantastic final. He was right up there, and I thought for me, Harry Smith was the man of the match. I thought in the final.
Well, we'll come to that in a moment, Mr. Sale. But this is the thing about Wigan, yeah. Even though Wigan won this game, yeah. Again, Bevin French gets all the headlines. You've just mentioned, we mentioned Luke Thompson. Now Harry Smith's name's been thrown into the mixer as well. it was a game of defence. Now, the player on the opposition team clearly, just dip back into KR for a minute. KR's man of the match was Elliot Minchella. No doubt about that at all. 59 tackles in game, 9 tackles, 89.3% tackle efficiency, 3 busts, 2 offloads, 28 carries, 115 metres, carried the ball as an average for 4. Minchella was everywhere. He was everywhere for him. I mean, he couldn't. All KR fans could not have asked any more from their captain on the night. But here's the one before you give a little bit of a rap to Minchella. 59 tackles from Minchella. 44 tackles, that beast one as well, on December from Batchelor, who we said, I think last week, we prefer to Joe. We think James is a better prospect. Liam Farrell, 53 tackles, wins the game. Cade Ellis, 56 tackles, he wins the game. Ethan Havard, 52 tackles, wins the game. Luke Thompson, 48 tackles, wins the game. Wigan had to get through so much defence in that game. It was just unbelievable tackling statistics from those players. So, Greg, over to you first. Minchella first, but also, you might not be aware of those massive tackling efforts from Farrell, Ellis, Everard and Thompson. They had to do it hard, did Wigan?
Well, they did. And, as I said right at the top of the show, it was a defensive masterclass from Wigan. And, I'd be interested to see how many of those tackles were actually carried out in the first 20 minutes when Hull KR were throwing everything at Wigan. But Minchella, yeah, I mean, he's been there. For me, he goes under the radar because of Mikey Lewis and because of the way May has played at times this season. But I'm a big fan, as you know. I've been a big fan of Minchella for a few seasons now. I think he's an absolute class loose forward. The best in the comp for me this year, easily. And that doesn't surprise me because, a lot of other loose forwards maybe get more raps because of maybe ball scoring tries or being flashy with the ball. Minchella puts a hard graft in the hard work and then does that as well. So yeah, Minchella doesn't surprise me that he was KR's standout player on the night.
Yeah, and again, for those who watched it back after being in the final, being at the final, I mean, he'd ran his blood to water. I mean, there was a picture of him full time on the floor, blood pouring from his eye, trying to get oxygen back into his lungs. Brilliant season. I mean, but you've got to give Cade Ellis his due. We mentioned Cade Ellis when we were picking our dream team. Ellis has been outstanding for Wigan this year. I'm very comfortable Minchella was the loose forward of the year, but both of those two, both number 13s, really showed up in that final, Steph.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if anybody doubted the impact of Minchella on that semi-final against Warrington, that could have been a different contest had he played in it. I think he has that big of an impact on the KR team, and I think he is sometimes overlooked because of Mikey Lewis this season. But just to put into context the effort from those Wigan players, I mean, it's phenomenal. For one player to get over 50 tackles is phenomenal. The fitness and the effort required in the other code of rugby, they wax lyrical because someone's made 9 tackles in a game. That's how ridiculous it is. To have the amount of players there that have made that many tackles in a winning side just goes to show you the mentality and culture at Wigan in terms of how much they want to defend. And defending is something you want to do. And the best sides want to defend and want to put those efforts in because that's more rewarding to them than scoring a try, especially down the middle.
9 tackles. I'm not being funny. Rugby Union, the only game where the training session is in the canteen. How clean and tidy can you line up for your pork chop to be thrown at you? Unbelievable. I mean, we're talking a different quality of rugby here, Mr. Sailor. You well know. Unbelievable stuff. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Line up, chop being thrown, somebody jumps up and catches it. Think about it. You know what I mean? If you're just worrying there, rugby league, the only rugby that's worth talking about. Minchella, absolutely outstanding. Steph, you mentioned it. I'll bring Joel in first on this point. A couple in the chat have mentioned it. Super League Raw player of the match wasn't Bevin French. It was this man again. What this guy has got to do to get the plaudits that he has been deserving of in the last 12 to 18 months, I do not know. Yes, he's a shocking tash. I don't mind telling you. I mean, that is one of the worst tashes known to man. Even Liam Marshall had a little smiling in conversation, but said he actually liked the tash. It is a bad tash. No wonder he got rid of it. But hey, by all accounts, it tickled the wife. Who knows? Anyway, but moving on. Only when they were kissing. Steady on. But yeah, man of the match, Harry Smith. For me, 100%. 19 tackles in the game. That's not his game. He's not there to do that. But his tackle efficiency, 82.6, which for a halfback's not bad. But it's the kicks. 9 attacking kicks that remained in play, that did the job, that got them territory. 22 kicks in general play, putting Hull KR on the back foot. That's what he did. He did it against Catalan last year. He did it in the World Club Championship. He did it at Wembley. He's done it again. He game managed Wigan. Believe you me, if Harry Smith, and Steph won't mind me saying this, if Harry Smith is Lachlan Lamb, you're in a lot of trouble on Saturday because you would not have had the territory that you got. You wouldn't have. That's a part of Lachlan Lamb's game. And he's not on his own. Drinkwater at Warrington. There's others that can be mentioned. None of them hold a candle to Harry Smith's ability to control a game from scrum half with his kicking. He got the drop goal, which I thought, again, game smarts. Me and Steph argued over KR's 2 points. Was it right? Was it wrong? There's Harry Smith in the heat of battle. Knows it's been a tough first half. I'll just slot one over here and make it a two-score game. Game smarts, incredible. 14 carries, 29 metres, 2 average. For me, he was the shoo-in man of the match. We were talking about it in the pub after. Again, the glamour gets the man of the match. But Harry Smith, I mean, I know Matt Peet will know exactly what this man brings to his team. But at what point do the journalists, at what point do the people who make these decisions recognise that Harry Smith, in those type of games, is a match winner?
It's why it's so frustrating, because you'll have known when you watched it back, the commentator said that towards the end, this might be a bit boring rugby for some because he's constantly kicking it out. But do you know what he's doing? He's doing exactly as he's been told. His coach, Matt Peet, said to Little Wife, tell Smith just to keep kicking it out. Keep kicking it out. We're already ahead. Let's just waste the clock down. And his kicks, where he's giving back possession, isn't anywhere near halfway or in theirs. It's right down by KR's touchline. His pinpoint accuracy is unreal. They said it may be boring rugby for some, but it's getting the job done and he's doing it the right way. He's not giving up any possession. The field possession is right by the try line. He's making them work for their sets. So, for him to do 9 attacking kicks that were recorded in, that's big, especially when it's such a low-scoring game. And that just shows what his mindset is. And when he was questioned after, what's it like being able to be a general around your field? It's how we're coached. That's his answer.
We'll get to Matty Peet in a moment. But Greg, Tom Mackay there saying only one that does it better in Super League is Sneed. I would argue he rivals Sneed.
I would argue that as well. I think Sneed is very good at it. I think Harry Smith is brilliant at it. And we all said, well, maybe not all of us, but most of us said after the game, Harry Smith was what was man of the match. He was man of the match at Wembley. He kicked Warrington to death. Once they got the noses in front, there was no way Warrington were ever going to come back into that game. The same on Saturday. The same on Saturday, I think. He just controlled it brilliantly. And the problem is, Dave, that a lot of those journalists who are awarding these man of the matches haven't been to a rugby league game all year. It's their first rugby league game. It's probably their only rugby league game that they'll go to because of the lack of media attention the sport gets. And so they just see the brilliance of French and don't understand the complexities of what Harry Smith is doing in controlling the game, in slowing it down, in turning the big Hull KR forwards around and giving Wigan field position that makes sure it's more and more difficult for Hull KR to get that try. And that's what Smith did on Saturday night. Brilliant performance.
Which pretty much backs up Craig's first comment. Craig's made a couple of belters here. We'll do his first one. He's unnoticed because he doesn't do the glamour. You're right. You've got to have a rugby league brain. You've got to have a rugby league IQ to really understand what Harry Smith is all about and what he actually does. He might not, Harry Smith, he might not be Bevin French. He might not be the player that most kids want on the back of the shirts. I get that. I understand that. But let me tell you now, you take Harry Smith out of that team, I don't think you do the quadruple this year, Wigan. I really don't. One of those games would have come back to bite you because you didn't have Smith in there. And you can argue Bevin French as well. Of course you could. But Bevin French is getting the plaudits. Harry's not. Unless you're a Wigan fan or a part of the coaching setup, very few independent journalists, podcasts out there talk about Harry Smith like we do. This lad deserves praise. And, you know, there's going to be a big hoo-ha in a couple of weeks if he gets the number 7 jersey. Why?
Do you know what, Dave? To back up your point there perfectly, you know, you look at Michael Jordan, the best basketball player that's ever graced the court, in my opinion, said himself that he wasn't his success. It was his right-hand man, Scottie Pippen, that was his success. Without him setting him up and getting him in certain places, he wouldn't have been able to do the things he did. So Bevin French is great. He can make things out of nothing. But a lot of the times when you really look back into your stats, and this is why it's so good what you do, Dave, with your stats that you've got there, that if Harry Smith didn't do the things he did, some of these strike men that are playing for Wigan wouldn't get some of these options or opportunities for scoring that they are doing. And that's all down to Harry's work ethic and being very selfless and allowing them to play their game and assisting them so well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. And you know, Craig Forth, Steph coming in saying, you know, journalists will always pick the lazy option. He's on fire tonight, is our Craig. Good lad. Well done. Who'd have thought? I think a bit of tutelage might have gone here over the course of the season. He is really now a connoisseur of the game. Good lad. I'm only joking, Craig. I'm sure you were long before we came along. But no, outstanding comments from him. You're a massive fan of Smiths as well, aren't you, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get to have him in conversation with Matty Peet, because I'm sure he will tell you that Smith is the first name on that team sheet at Wigan every week, because some of the comments are absolutely right. For Bevin French to be able to do what he does, to Jai Field and Marshall to be able to what they do, it's all about laying a platform, and it's all about field position, it's all about territory. And some of the kicks that Harry Smith does under pressure, and Lachlan Lamb's a great example. Everyone's waxed lyrical. Lachlan Lamb finished, I think, 5th or 6th on the Man of Steel this year, although I do think last year he was better. But if you look at what Harry Smith does, every time he's kicking it, he's splitting the defenders, he's finding the ground, they're running it out from 5 metres out, not 30. It's not just an aimless bomb up or whatever. And when you've got the quality that Wigan have to be able to back that up, that then creates the opportunity. So Wigan are attacking from their own 40 rather than their own 10. And that's what Harry Smith brings to it. It's control. And it's like Andrew Johns did the same thing in the NRL. He had a bit of Bevin French in him as well. But a lot of his game was about territory, about setting the platform, and then allowing the best players to then have good field position to do what they do. And that's exactly what Harry Smith does at Wigan. He's probably the most underrated asset that Wigan have got.
But not by the people that matter. Absolutely not. I mean, Rob Lloyd, good evening to Rob. I think he's had a couple of comments tonight, Rob. I don't know if it's your first time watching Super League Raw, but good evening to you, sir. French calls Smith the general. The team know what he brings to the table. Absolutely right. Of course he does. Greggy's back again. He's having lots of trouble. Greggy's back. There he is. Right, where was it? I'm trying to find it now, because I do like to put it up on the screen. Just have a look. Here we go. It was Carl Shaw. Carl Shaw, what were the overall statistics on the grand final? Well, there you go, Carl. I always like to prep for shows, you know that. So here it comes, my old mucker. Here it comes. As you can see, couldn't be tighter, really. Tackle efficiency. And that, for me, is where it all went a little bit wrong. If you look at the penalty count, we can have more penalties. KR made more meters. Possession was absolutely nip and tuck. It was in the errors, and it was in the missed tackles. 52 tackle busts from Wigan to 32 tackle busts for KR. For those who don't know, that then collates itself into missed tackles. So 52 missed tackles from KR, 14 errors to 6. Against Wigan, those two statistics, missed tackles, now you might, I'll just say that again for you, because missed tackles you reverse tackle busts. So it was 52 missed tackles to 32 in the favour of Wigan. You cannot afford for your missed tackle count to be higher than Wigan's and for your error count to be that high against Wigan and expect to come out. So actually, when you look at those stats, to only have lost that final 9 points to 2, I think shows just how far KR have come in the year 2024. And as we go into next season, there's been a lot of talk, maybe Warrington, I think Saints, Leeds, there's quite a few that are in transition. Warrington are getting a lot of raps. KR in the final. KR have made some great signings again. that is not only have they made so much progress this year as that stats show to only lose 9-2 with those stats, they will be Wigan's main rivals for next year, would you say, Joel?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you've got to look at how well they've done this season, the fact that they're going to bolster even more so for next season just shows how scary their squad's going to be. And you look at the amount of signings Lee have, and I joke about it often now. Every single morning we have a new signing for Lee. How good they're going to look for next season. It just shows, doesn't it, how good the competition's becoming. You know, a few years ago, KR would never be in these discussions. And look at them now. You know, you're kind of tipping them to be within the top 2 and 3 again. You know, they may chase for even higher. We couldn't put it against them. There's no chance that we could do that. So, yeah, they've got every chance of going again in the grand final next year.
Yeah, I mean, a few people want to split hairs over when the errors actually took place. The missed tackles as well. So, overall, guys, the fact of the matter is they made errors and they made missed tackles. You can't afford to do that no matter when in the game it was, because up until 73 minutes, that game was right in the melting pot.
And it's a grand final.
And it's a grand final. So, yeah, Greg, I mean, obviously a lot of plaudits going away and Warrington this year. So, you know, Burgess did a great job. But would you still have KR as the main rivals to Wigan going into next season?
I think you've got at this moment in time. I think you're going to have to. Reece Martin could be the final piece in the puzzle because he can kick goals, and that's. I think Hull KR fans will agree that Mikey Lewis has had issues with goal kicking this year. I mean that one in front of the post on Saturday, he managed to hit the post with it. So you know, I think Reece Martin is a great signing. Could quite possibly be that final piece of the jigsaw for KR. And yeah, I think looking at it from here now, obviously we're 12 months away from it, but I think KR could very well again be Wigan's main rivals.
Marlon, Steph?
Yeah, no, you couldn't say they wouldn't be, especially because they're not losing players either. So I think but I wouldn't. I know you two won't say it, but I think Warrington shouldn't be overlooked either. I think the top 3 in Super League this season are going to be very strong again next year, especially another year under Sam Burgess. I think it's going to do Warrington the world of good as well. So I think you guys might still be in it as well. But 100% Hull KR, they're in a bit of a golden period for them, just as much as Wigan are. Keeping all the players, and Reece Martin is 100% the missing jigsaw piece in terms of that goal kicking. And if they'd had Reece Martin this season, they'd have probably been the league leaders.
I think there's no question about that. I think he'd have got more than enough points to have secured that over the course of the season. Right, look, for you Wigan fans, by all accounts, we're an anti-Wigan show. We're not. We're absolutely not.
It's just me. I'm anti-Wigan, apparently.
Supposedly so. I think to a man, we all said Wigan were going to win it. They've entertained us with some wonderful rugby league. We will go out on tonight's show in homage to Wigan, as only Super League Raw does. You don't worry about that. I've got something special for you, Wigan fans, a little bit later. But yeah, before we answer any questions, we've got a bit of time. You've got a question for us, whether it be grand final next season, whatever it may be. Chat now, because the last thing I just want to ask is probably the best piece of business that Wigan have done in recent history, apart from Bevin French, would be Matt Peet. There's no question about that. Matt Peet, at the moment, statistically, is not the greatest Wigan coach of all time. Now, you know, John Money, remember John Money, there's a name. Let's remember John Money's era was when they didn't really have a lot of competition. Let's be crystal clear. If Wigan didn't win a Challenge Cup or didn't win a league, quite frankly, they've been embarrassing. Let's be honest, because everybody else's players were doing full-time jobs, training in the evening and going up against a full-time team at Wigan. So, you know, as good a coach as John Money was, with 4 championships, 4 Challenge Cups and a World Club Challenge to his name, I wouldn't put John Money in the same bracket as Sean Wayne. Sean Wayne has done it in the Super League era. 3 championships for Sean, World Club Championship in there, a League Leaders Shield, 2 Challenge Cups. And this is a frightening thing. Already, Matt Peet, since October 2021, 2 grand final winning rings, 2 Challenge Cups, a League Leaders, a World Club Challenge. What more is he going to get? Matt Peet, arguably now is in the conversation with Sean Wayne, but for me, we're seeing a coach here who will go down in history, because I think over the next few years he's going to pick up more silverware. But also, can I just say, you know, people might not like what I'm about to say, but it's true. So you Wigan fans, there is actually a compliment. So don't go mad at me before bringing the boys in on Matty Peet. But this is my last point on Matt Peet. Under John Money, Wigan were hated because of the full-time piece. Sean Wayne, as good a coach as he is to the players and to the team he represents, unless he's England manager, not many people like Sean Wayne as a coach. And that's where Matty Peet's different. Because Matt Peet, he's doing it in a way that other Super League clubs, fans who can be very biased, very partisan, very blinkered, cannot help but like the man.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is the difference. Matt Peet, for me, is an absolute, you know, if you could mould out of Play-Doh a modern day coach in rugby league, you know what? I bet Matty Peet would resemble it.
I think with that, Dave, it comes from the top as well, and I think Chris Radlinski has been an absolute. It's been a genius appointment by Wigan, because the Wigan club at the moment just oozes class for me, and that's very difficult to say as a Lee fan, as it is for a St Helens fan or as a Warrington fan. But when you look at what they do off the field as well as on it. And it comes back to this thing of culture as well. They are so classy in what they do. Matty Peet's so respectful with when they lose. He pays respect for the opposition. He doesn't throw his. I can't recall any occasion where he's thrown his toys out the pram of anything that's happened. And it's the same with Chris Radlinski at the top. Chris Radlinski is promoting the Vegas game. The reason that's happening is because of him. They're just a very, very classy club, and they do things the right way. And that, like I say, comes from the top. But also, they're very lucky to have a coach like Matty Peet, who's very level-headed. He's very. I mean, obviously, it's the best job in the in Super League, isn't it? As long as you get it right, and then it's the worst job if you don't. So that's the difference. But no, Matty Peet's a class act, and everyone's got a lot of respect for him.
Dawn's saying there he's the master of diplomacy. AD West, not quite sure where he's going with this. Who brought French and Fielding? I think he's probably suggesting Sean Wayne. Bringing players in is one thing. Man management in the modern game is another, Greg, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's fair to say a couple of years ago, people were going, Matty who? Outside of Wigan. But he is. I mean, he's very understated as well. And as I think as Steph says, he you know, he will always praise the opposition. So he's very kind of fair in the comments he makes. He doesn't get carried away. He will praise his own players, but he'll also praise the opposition. I think he's done and you know, I know because of my daughter's boyfriend being in the Wigan reserves, how very well respected and how highly thought of he is by the players as well. He has a respect to the players as well. You could argue that he's inherited a good team.
He's what Carl's saying, yeah.
But coaches, just because you inherit a good team doesn't mean it stays a good team and it stays winning things. You still have to be good at your job.
Yeah, that's Paul Wellens. So that's Paul Wellens, he knows.
Well, yeah, look at David Moyes with Man United.
We're joking, Saints fans.
Well, no, it's true. You know, as we were saying on Saturday, Paul Wellens is the only guy who's got his statue outside every other rugby league ground in Super League. Yeah. But, you know, just because you inherit a good team doesn't mean to say they are going to stay a good team. Correct. He's done a really, really, really good job, I think. Big respect to him. Big respect.
Bevin French were Adrian Lamb signing.
Yeah, they were, weren't they?
Well, like I say, you know, man management. I mean, look, Darryl Powell. You know, I'm sorry, Darryl, if you're watching, but you know, look at Darryl Powell at Warrington. You know, that was, you know, and he won his time again. I'm sure done a great job this year. And Wakefield, of course, got the Coach of the Year as well. So well done to Darryl Powell. for those purists out there, yes, Jim Sullivan, I get that. 5 championships, 2 Challenge Cups from 32 to 52. I get that. That was a different era. So it's only right and appropriate we tip our hat to the Welshman who led Wigan at that time.
Right, Bevin.
Joel?
Yeah, I've been a bit on the side of he's inherited a very good team, which he has. But I've thought about this quite a lot, and it just shows the kind of bloke that he is. I think because he's inherited such a good team, he's been able to manage the team in the way that is best for Matty Peet. And like you said, people didn't necessarily always like Sean Wayne, but he laid the foundations. Matty Peet has been very good at building the bricks. And that's clear evidence of that being the case, because like we said, you look at Wolf at St Helens was very good. It was a very good Saints side. Paul Wellens has come in, and it's not been the same story, but it's been the exact same scenarios. So you look at Matty Peet, and okay, had it not been for Sean Wayne, would it have been the same side? We don't know. We can never say that. But what we can see is that everyone loves Matty Peet, and his man management, his attribute, his main thing that he's got. And I think that what that's done is that's bolstered the team, and it set them up because they love him so much. They're going to listen to what he says, and clearly he's a good coach because he knows what he's doing. He said himself on an interview recently, he said he trusts his players enough to make them decisions. He empowers them. What coaches do that? There's a lot that don't. So the fact that Matty's got the trust in his players means that the players have got the trust in Matty Peet, and that brings that, once again, we talk about it, that culture.
Now, spot on. Look, I don't care what anybody says, considering that, we had Derek, we wish him well tonight. Hopefully he's back with us tomorrow for the special. For those of you who've tuned in and have stayed with us, thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed the show. We are hoping that Derek will be with us tomorrow for a special edition, an additional Super League Raw Weekly with Derek Beaumont, looking at IMG, Super League's future and what next for the Leopards. Of course, big changes at the Leopards going into next season. We are going to try and get more guests during the course of the winter months as well. Keep your eyes posted on that one. Don't forget, you members, email coming tomorrow. Will you be a part of the Mastermind series? We hope you will be. Of course, a prize up for grabs for that. You have to be a member. Of course, no better time to become a member. 3 people have done the QR code tonight. We hope you join once the show is over. We really do need your support to keep this going and to make it bigger and better for 2025, because we've got some big plans. But, of course, we need your support to do it. You've had 2 hours of great Rugby League debate. We really appreciate all of you guys who've got in the chat tonight and have helped the show along, because you have. You've helped the show along with your questions and your comments. It's allowed us to, interject even more debate during the course of tonight's show. We really do appreciate your support. There you go. Another season comes and it goes. The Wigan Warriors, quite simply, untouchable at this moment in time. We will be building up to the 2025 season throughout the winter. Who are going to be the team to take them off their perch? That's going to be a big question that we'll try to ask over the course of the next few weeks. I did promise you that we go out playing tribute to the Wigan Warriors, and that is exactly what we are going to do. Set your clocks, because we do it all again tomorrow, 8 p.m. with Derek. Fingers crossed, we'll be fitting well enough to come and join us for that special. You don't want to miss Super League Raw Weekly. As always, thank you to Joel Scholes, to Greg, and of course to Steph, and of course to myself as well. Let me give myself a little bit of a pat for bringing this show to you tonight. Like I say, we've had to do it a little bit on the fly, but hey, look at that. That's how knowledgeable we are. That's how much we care about this great sport, Rugby League. We'll give you 2 hours of great entertainment. Please consider joining that membership. We really do need your support. And there's only one way to go out at the end of the season, and that is to pay homage to the champions, the Wigan Warriors. Quite simply, history makers. See you tomorrow.
French gets it on. Field just bears the slightest of dummies. Gets it to Smith, chip over the top. They're all chasing him to get a bounce. Now it's taken on by Mego, who's all the way through to score. Simply unstoppable.
Feel at the moment that Wigan are building up ahead of steam. Here is Neil now, and here is Marshall. Marshall inside for Kieran.
French gets it away. They go short to Thompson. Through the gap. Luke Thompson going for the line. Gone short here. He's gone short, and they've not done it. And it's into the hands of Wardle. And it's Ellis is coming on there as well. And Ellis came from nowhere. Oh, O'Neill from dummy half. Real determination. Going is how they'll work it down the short side. Miss out pass. Get the ball away. Could be more back on the inside. Wigan gonna score. Cruz leading is over. Bevin French on the ball. Who puts the kick behind. They're queuing up. Risky's there at the head of the queue. And he'll race underneath the sticks.
It's in French's hands. Pokes the kick. Eckersley. What a way to mark a Challenge Cup final appearance. Going out to the left-hand side and a short pass for Nsemba. Nsemba. Oh, what a try. What a player.
This out pass finds Wardle. Wardle with the footwork. Wardle going through. Wardle slicing through. Ball back on the inside. Barrow to finish it off in style. Wigan now produce a counter punch. French into the line. Gets it away. Chance here. Flick pass. Oh, what a finish. French with a dummy. And away he goes. Livingstone again there. He doesn't need anybody. He is brilliant. He is astonishing. And in 2024, they have won the lot. A World Club Challenge, a Challenge Cup, a League Leaders Shield, and now a Grand Final. This is a Wigan side that is one for the ages. All 4 major trophies in 1 year, unprecedented.